lifelong learner semua, welcome back to DTTalk Digital Transformation Talk. Apa kabar nih teman-teman lifelong learner semua? Semoga dalam keadaan sehat dan bahagia selalu pastinya. Gak kerasa kita udah di hari Rabu lagi nih teman-teman. Kalau udah di hari Rabu, kita ada acara apa nih di Multimatics? Oke, jadi setiap hari Rabu jam 12 siang, kita akan ada DTTalk Digital Transformation Talk, di mana kita akan ngobrol-ngobrol seputar digital transformasi selama kurang lebih 40 menit ke depan nih teman-teman. Jadi untuk para lifelong learner semua yang mungkin ketinggalan nih ya sama DTTalk kita di episode-episode sebelumnya nih ya, jangan khawatir, kita ada siaran ulangnya semua di sosial media kita, ada di Instagram @multimatics dan juga ada di YouTube kita Multimatics ID. Jadi teman-teman lifelong learners bisa langsung kunjungi aja sosial media kita untuk nonton episode-episode kita yang sebelumnya. Dan juga aku mau kasih tahu untuk teman-teman yang nanti punya pertanyaan nih ya, pertanyaan seputar topik kita hari ini, boleh banget langsung ditanyain aja pertanyaannya di kolom komentar kita di bawah. Nanti akan langsung dibantu jawab sama expertnya dari Multimatics. Dan tidak lupa juga untuk pertanyaan terbaik nanti akan dapetin hadiah dari Multimatics. Jadi hari ini seperti biasa kita selain belajar bisa dapat hadiah juga nih teman-teman. Oke, mungkin teman-teman semua udah penasaran kan ya, hari ini kita akan bahas tentang apa sih gitu kan. Nah, hari ini kita akan bahas pastinya tentang digital transformasi dan juga tentang design thinking dan juga tentang agile teman-teman. Dan hari ini ada yang spesial nih ya, seperti biasa, kalau biasanya kan expert yang menemani aku kan cuma satu orang nih ya. Nah, hari ini kita ada dua expert yang akan nemenin aku untuk bahas topik yang tadi. Jadi pastinya akan lebih seru dan menarik. Langsung aja, please welcome Dr. Agus Setiawan and Mr. Kaustuv. Hai, apa kabar Pak Agus?
Yes,
How are
I'm
you,
fine.
Mr. Kaustuv?
I'm great. Now, usually we have two, and then
Yeah.
now we have three.
Yeah. So today we have a special guest.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Oke, mungkin teman-teman lifelong learners kalau Dr. Agus Setiawan pastinya sudah kenal
Sudah
sebagai
kenal,
Direktur
ya.
Eksekutif dari Multimatics
Yes.
dan juga expert di Multimatics untuk pembahasan kita hari ini ya,
Yeah.
Pak Agus. And today we also have the special guest. This is Mr. Kaustuv. Yay! Yeah, he is a VP from one of the leading bank in UK and also the ITIL expert. Okay, maybe Mr. Kaustuv, you can give a little introduction to our viewers here.
Yeah, hi guys. So my name is Kaustuv. You can always call me KD. And basically my domain has been service management, agile, project management, and all these areas. So my basic expertise lies with the domain of nowadays with the domain of transformation and bringing about organizational and cultural changes and process mindset oriented changes in an organization, trying to redefine the value stream maps, look at definitely digital transformation from a standpoint from a company objectives or goals point of view. So basically these are what I do, and as we know that this is now a very hot cake in the market.
Yes.
So what cake?
What cake? Layer cake.
Like cake, yeah, okay. I like cake also.
So yeah, it all talks about the transformational strategies, business transformation, transformation based on customer mindset, CX, customer experience oriented mindset, and transformation to achieve those mindsets. So basically this is what the domain I cater to, and we do model our services based on customer experience journey and try to get a optimized value stream map for each of the customer journeys. That is what we do basically.
Yeah. Couple times you mentioned about change. Couple times you mentioned about the transformation. Actually, for an organization, so when they talk about the digital transformation, it is just an apply, install technology, or what else? KD.
Thank you, Agus. Basically,
Thank you also, KD.
Thank you. I mean that's the question.
Yeah.
Right? So, it's not the tools.
Oh,
only.
I see.
When
you mention tools, it is about the technology. It is not just about the technology.
No, it's not only about the technology.
Okay.
It's about generally 3 or 4 domains.
Okay.
Business modeling, customer-oriented mindset,
Okay, customer,
process transformation,
process transformation.
and creating something called value streams.
Wow. And when I talk about the changing, I think it is hard things for an organization. Yeah.
Yeah, it is the basic challenges. See, if you look at the aspects, people, process,
Technology.
products, or
Okay.
technology,
Yep. Yeah.
and your suppliers in the delivery space, right?
Yeah.
All play an important part, right?
Yep.
So when you talk about the digital transformation, you can easily try to buy a tool, change your process,
Yeah.
document it basically.
Mm.
But when it comes to actual implementation and following that in the heart of the organization, people and cultural problems are the biggest challenge.
Yeah.
Now, to mitigate that, one of the common techniques we are nowadays kind of taking into the consideration
Yep.
is design thinking,
Yeah.
right? So, design thinking is a conceptual way of thinking, but
Yeah.
it's working in the market to provision the digital transformation ideas
Yeah.
and bringing them to the market. So
Yeah. So before we talk about the design thinking, implementation technology, I'm not talking easy, but still manageable. But changing the human, changing the process is another thing.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Correct.
that's why we need more an effort how to transform an organization to become the digital enterprise. Yeah.
Absolutely, and
Yeah.
to make a digital enterprise work, see, you can adopt a lot of frameworks from
Yeah.
the market, right?
Correct.
You can do Agile, you can do Scrum, you
Yeah.
can do SAFe,
Mm.
LESS. A lot
Yeah,
of
yeah.
frameworks are there in the market, and
Yeah.
people are kind of saying we are Agile organization, we are Agile enterprise, but when you look at the mindset of the people, that's still Waterfall, or that's still.
So what is a waterfall? Maybe the audience, they don't know about the waterfall.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe you can.
Audience, I think you know about that.
No,
but-
no, actually,
Yeah,
our
you-
program is the DTTalk Digital Transformation,
Yeah.
and we have audience from many organizations. Actually, they would like also to know, what is waterfall and what is not waterfall. What is waterfall and what is not? Yeah.
So Waterfall is the common method which we use for software development lifecycle,
yeah.
SDLC.
I see.
And in the Waterfall, the general steps for every Waterfall phase involves requirement gathering, designing, building, testing, deployment, and then finally you close the project, right?
Yep.
But because of these steps, you don't jump a step to go to the next step. You
Yeah,
complete
yeah.
one step fully, and then you go to the next one. And because of that, that's called a waterfall approach.
Yep.
The basic difference between a waterfall approach and an agile approach, which is the non-waterfall
Oh, I
approach.
see. Okay.
So
waterfall and agile.
agile
Yep.
approach is that in agile we do iterations.
Iteration,
and-
incremental.
or incremental
Correct.
delivery
Yes.
model or evolutionary delivery model.
Yes.
And in that,
Wow.
basically what we are doing is we are trying to replicate all that is in a waterfall in
Yep.
each of the evolutions.
Evolution.
So
I think evolution delivery comes from the DSDM, right?
yes, yes,
Scrum we call
iteration
sprint.
or sprint. Yes.
Sprint, correct.
Sprint is the most common word in the market.
Scrum
Yeah,
lah, yeah.
So
I think for evolutionary development is not common here lah. Yeah, but
understand.
at DSDM you learn the ED,
Yeah,
evolutionary development. Correct.
Yes,
Yep.
correct. So,
Yep.
but sprint is the common term.
Common here, yeah.
Yeah, so-
Scrum.
So the key things which you see usually in a Scrum are like the
Yeah.
roles of the Scrum, right?
Okay.
The product owner, Scrum
Yeah.
master, and the development team. So here you don't have development team, a team which is doing requirement gathering separately,
yeah.
and team which is doing design separately or building separately. Here the team is called a development team or a Scrum team
Yeah.
because they are working together in a collaborative manner,
Yeah.
which facilitates open communication, and they are going through the whole cycle together.
Yeah.
They're not distinguishing. I will do designing, you will do building, you will do testing. That's not the case. So,
Yeah.
so in this collaborative environment, you can always feel that the development issues, and even if you're because we are talking about agile, that leads me to another point is DevOps, right? Because that's all working hand in hand.
Yeah. DevOps,
Yeah,
development and
operation.
Operation. Yeah.
Okay.
So when we talk about DevOps or agile, all these are working together
working together.
to bring about the digital transformation at the
Yeah.
end of the day. So these are the common practices in the framework and the frameworks in the market which are being adopted by every company which is looking at digital transformation. Definitely, it doesn't start with a framework. It starts always with a thinking and a mindset. And for that, we need the design thinking to come into place.
Okay.
And that is always top down, because it always starts with the CEOs and the CIOs envisioning that they want some digital transformation and digital transformation being part of their portfolio, right?
Yeah.
So at that point of time, they look at initiating the discussion with design thinking.
Yeah.
So because frameworks come later on. First is the thought and the mindset.
Thought and mindset is
Correct.
very important.
Very
Okay.
important. And it's not about the CEOs investing $100 million to buy a tool
Yeah,
and
yeah.
tomorrow it becomes a digitally transformed organization or enterprise.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen, because it's a common mindset that if you purchase a tool, like if you purchase a blockchain or implement blockchain or implement IoT
Yes, big
or,
data.
or we implement hybrid cloud computing,
Yeah.
then we become a digitally transformed company. It's a tool set is an enabler.
Enabler, correct.
It's not the thing which is going to make you a digitally transformed organization or an enterprise.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So from that
Yeah.
perspective, I think, I think what we really want to do is first create that awareness and the mindset in the organization, which is the first step. And for that, we start with design thinking usually.
Okay. So Tasya, so back to your first question about the digital transformation. So the audience should understand, and then they can separate between digitalization and digital transformation.
Correct.
Digitalization is the process to convert from manual to digital or to automatic, or to digital,
Using
Yes,
RPAs like
correct,
robotic
exactly.
process
But the
automation.
digital transformation, the organization must have the digital capability. Technology, one of the digital capability, and the others about the customer, about the people itself, about the innovation, and the others. You just mentioned about the waterfall and agile. It is about the process itself.
Correct.
Okay.
So again, because you brought this up, there is a common concept that if we are like, for example, if you are implementing microservices, right, then we become an agile company.
Yes.
You do become an agile company, but you don't become necessarily a digitally transformed enterprise, because agility can increase your speed to market, can increase your product being delivered more on time with the cost within the budget, right? But it may not really ensure that you get transformed into a digitally transformed organization. Because if you see in the general landscape, a lot of companies, some development teams are following agile and scrum day to day. Other units are not following that because they don't think that is feasible for them to implement.
Okay.
So overall, the organization, when it launches into the digital transformation roadmap, that whole organization needs to think digitally different.
Okay.
In other words, right?
Yeah.
So,
Actually, I have question talking about that agile. So, in now era, like every company want to do that agile, right? Like, but actually, do you think that every company is matched to do that agile implementation, or actually there are just like some types of company which is like matched to do that agile implementation, or maybe some other company actually it's better to still using that waterfall maybe, or all companies it's better to use that agile?
see, in the practical scenario, what we see nowadays when we go to different companies is that none of the companies are so-called fully agile, right? They are just they had been using waterfall, PMP, Prince2, all these methodologies, and I mean that's a waterfall method, but that has worked for the companies for so many years, and they have invested so heavily into that, so they implement on top of that agile. So it makes a hybrid model, partially traditional waterfall method, partially agile method, and not all teams are able to adopt it. For example, in a banking environment, the regulatory compliance, all these departments do not adopt agile so easily because they have a fixed waterfall method of doing the compliance and regulatory checks. So they just can't take it easily to adopt agile, and it's not only banking, it's all the industries are facing that challenge, right? Now if you are talking about the benchmark like Spotify, ING Bank in Europe, and Netflix, yes, they are the so-called benchmarks of agile, but they have evolved over the years, and it's all about their culture, right? So, for example, if you talk about a hierarchy company which has a lot of politics, then agile is very difficult.
Bureaucracy, silo.
Yep, exactly. So because
So actually, when I maybe 10 years ago, actually I teach a PMBOK. So I'm very PMism. So when you mentioned about the waterfall, actually, what I can say is waterfall is also powerful. When you talk about the PMBOK. But agile also very hype current in the current situation. So it depends on the business. Actually, if you are in the construction company, they cannot use agile.
Cannot use agile.
They must use the waterfall because if you make a bridge, you cannot do a sprint when you're doing a bridge. So that's why. So in the current, let's say in the banking and in telco, which is the the business environment very complex. The Cinefin framework, Dr. Snowden. So if the business environment is simple, complicated, complex, chaos, and disorder, then you must also have a different management approach. If the business environment complex, then you cannot use a waterfall
method.
Correct.
Even chaotic environment also you cannot.
Correct. Exactly. So for me, we must know about the waterfall, like a Prince 2, also powerful. But we also must understand about the agile. So depends. So if the scope clear, the changing not so many, then we can use.
For example, waterfall. Like he's mentioning construction company, right? That's a good example.
Building a house.
You cannot build the roof.
You cannot do a sprint.
And also on top of that, I should say, if coming from his example, any company which is having a back-end support as IT, the IT part of it can be easily transformed to agile and digital transformation oriented model. But from the business standpoint, you need to look at what is the nature of the business.
Correct, exactly.
That nature of the business will tell you whether the business can really become agile or business cannot become. For example, if you look at any country and look at the central banks of the countries, right? The business of central banks cannot become agile because they are very regulatory and compliance defined policies, right? And factors to consider. So their business model is still old traditional business model, but lot of this new banks or this
digital bank,
Western banks are trying to follow a agile business model, and that's why this digital transformation is coming so big in the market.
So I think for the digital transformation, I think the organization must have a digital capability. Now we have discussed about the agile. I think it is very important for organization must adapt. But the other thing is about the customer focus, customer centric. It's also important. You apply the big data, you apply the emerging technology, but if the business model not focusing on customer, it also useless. Have a value to the customer. How about the digital mindset when we would like to focus on the customer centric? You just mentioned about the design thinking. So what is design thinking?
Design thinking is a mindset where you try to envision what business is trying to achieve with the help of the technology at the back end and using RPA methods, robotic process automation methods. So, you need tools for that, but you're trying to envision how the company should evolve to think in a more business-centric mindset. So there are 5 different steps for that. So you empathize. Empathize means basically you wear the shoes of the customer. And you try to think like the customer. What is the customer trying to achieve as an end outcome, right? So in this, what we do is we try to capture the voice of the customer and we try to map the end-to-end customer experience journey when using our products and services. And by doing that, we try to find out where exactly the customer is feeling that there is a point of improvement or there is a gap, right? By doing that, you will be going to the next step, which is basically you try to define and you define the problem out of that problem statement. So by empathizing and doing the CX and the customer experience journey, only will you be able to define the correct problem statement.
Yep.
Now, even though it sounds very simple, but defining the correct problem statement is the most difficult task.
Correct, exactly. Okay. So before you continue with the next step, actually, so when we create a product, so there are two approach. Yeah, the first approach comes from the company itself. Yeah, I mean from the manager, from their top management, they have an idea, and then they release product based on their perspective. Yeah, but the second approach comes from the customer side.
Needs,
Okay, correct. From the customer need, from the customer problem. So what service, what product that can release to solve the customer problem? There's two different approach. Comes from the customer mind. And first from the customer, from the company's mind.
Company's mind.
Ayo, belibet ya. Okay, the second one from the customer mindset. So what Kaustuv mentioned, design thinking. I mean the customer from the design thinking from the customer perspective. Yeah.
Yes.
So can continue the next step. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. So the next after you empathize, but empathizing is a long process.
Yeah.
Right now, I can tell you the best framework in the market to empathize right now is the module in ITIL called Define Stakeholder Value, DSV.
Yep.
DSV.
In the DSV module, they have explained the whole module is based on how to define customer experience journey.
Yep.
And how to break down the customer experience journey points.
Yeah.
So actually, if you follow that, then only and you see CX and UX always keeps evolving. So it doesn't stay the same, right? So as you know, Pagaus, that when we define a problem statement at a point in time, it changes over 6 months. The business changes, and the customer's mindset changes, and the CX statement evolves. So after empathize, when you define, then you go for your ideating phase. So the ideate phase is basically whatever problem statement you have defined, you can draw any visual chart can do. You can do a modeling, you can do a Kanban problem statement, you can do a A3 charter. There are a lot of methods in the market to do a visual representation of the problem statement. Usually we try to follow A3 charter that works the best in the market in a lot of scenarios. So when we do that, we are able to visualize what is the problem statement actually, what we mean by it, and then we create a working group or a kind of a working steering committee group, and we work on that problem statement. So in that problem statement, the stakeholders who are involved, they try to ideate on different possible solutions, which can possibly work to mitigate those gaps which you have identified during your empathize phase. So those customer experience gaps are, the most fastest to market strategies are adopted because we are agile at the same time, because the layer on which digital transformation works, one of the key pillars is agile. And DevOps, right? So we always focus on the quick time to market strategy. So based on that, we try to do the ideating. And after you ideate,
so after get the idea, then you execute, develop the product, or no?
No, we do the prototyping.
Okay, I see.
Prototyping.
So prototyping can be two perspectives actually. As Agus also has been talking about it. So prototyping can come from the internal company mindset, prototyping, and one prototyping can be from the basis of the customer's mindset, which we call as outside in approach. It's a outside in approach means you think like the customer, because the customer is outside the company, and then you take that mindset inside the company, and you think like that, right? So so the prototyping is completely based on, generally we base it on the outside in methodology.
Yeah, it is very important. Yeah, so when I interact with my customer, from bank also, and then I ask, hey, last year how many you release your digital product? And then they mention maybe it's around 10 to 15 digital product they launch in the year. They launch in the market, and then I ask, okay, so from 10 to 15 digital product, are they a success? Oh no, Pa, So at that time we release and then success, and then later on not success. And it is a questioning. Yeah, why few digital products success and then the other not? Why? It is because when they're doing empathy, then we ask. So how many customer? Then you ask.
Yes,
Correct, exactly, right?
Correct.
Because in the empathy, they go to the market, they go to the customer and then ask, how if the group of the customer not the right customer.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's why after the empathize and then define the idea, the following step, and then you're doing a prototype. So what Kaustuv mentioned, it is not a test by our internal, but we need to go to market a few customer,
Yes.
and then we need to test with them. Yeah.
Yes.
If it is not valid, then we need to go back to
The empathize step.
Empathize again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
that's right. Yeah.
because there are different user profiles.
Correct.
Because we have few factors: geographical positioning of the product. Then, when we do a geographical, like for example, if you work in a MNC, your portfolio changes according to the geographical location.
Correct.
And your service offering also changes according to your geographical location.
Yeah.
Even the pricing changes, right?
Price is changing so. I mean, for the Indonesia market, we have Jakarta, Java, Sumatra. I think for the pricing strategy must smart also.
The pricing will also be different.
So during the empathize phase, we actually start with user profiling and market profiling. So after we do that, different markets have different profiles of users.
Yep.
And based on different user types and profiles, we do separate empathize sessions. We just don't club all the customers together because customer mindset changes. So we do the user profiling and then we club the customers of one typical profile together and do a empathize, define, ideate, prototype and test for them. So, but the prototyping, yes, as you mentioned, we define the market space also where we are going to test that prototype and accordingly test that prototype only in that defined market space. And we don't do a big bang always. We always do a phased kind of an approach. So that we can, whatever the fault or whatever the gaps we still have in the product, we get the first-hand feedback from the customer and we again go back to the empathize phase.
Okay, so we can say that empathize step is the most difficult one, the most difficult and important one.
Defining stage.
Oh, okay, empathize and defining.
I think actually every step also hard.
True.
So after the prototype and then what
test.
Test. Okay.
So whatever the prototype you have created, in the defined market space, you're going to launch that product and test the feedback or the performance of the product.
I see.
So you're going to get the first-hand feedback from the customer. And based on the feedback or based on the whatever the response to the product is, you go for the next iteration of the evolutionary development or sprint or whatever.
Actually, when they have the statement problem and then next to the idea, it's still a hypothesis. It masih dugaan sementara. So that's why they need to test. So from the test itself, then the answer will be two: valid from the hypothesis or not valid from the hypothesis.
Correct.
If it is valid, then they need to develop.
Correct.
Then they can develop with agile or with waterfall.
Correct.
Correct.
So basically when we do the testing part, as you mentioned, we can have the testing done through PMP or Prince2, or we can do the testing via DevOps or Agile.
Kaustuv, I think now our audience they know about the design thinking. Actually, would like to ask in the market. So now you're working in the leading bank, and also you are as a consultant serve many companies. Is it design thinking apply in the company or just a theory or concept?
No, design.
Maybe in your current company now.
Design thinking always starts with the strategic level.
Okay.
It doesn't start with the operational level. Even though people try to believe that it starts with the operational level, it doesn't, because it's a mindset. So it has to be pushed top down. So if the CEO, CIO, board of directors, if they have this concept of not only investing in tools, but also investing in the transformation which involves people,
Okay.
then only they look into this design thinking process.
Mm.
The major problem with design thinking is sometimes people tend to ideate too much, and the prototype takes a long time to come out. So, so that becomes that's a real bottleneck actually.
Okay.
So
Yep.
in our industry also, as simple as your mobile application for banking,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
To improve it, we do a lot of empathizing, then we define problem statements, but the idea state never ends. It keeps on getting spread and spread because the strategic leaders maybe want to put many solutions together in one package, which is not really working in the industry. So I mean, at the end of the day, again, that evolutionary development or the sprint or that iterative mindset helps you to ideate and again ideate rather than pushing all the features or all the services together in one package.
Okay. So it means you want to say that design thinking also apply in organization.
Yes.
Okay.
It works very well in any organization which is trying to evolve and look at the mindset, culture, people, not only the process transformation. There is a common mindset. Digital transformation means I do a tool transformation or a process transformation.
Yes.
But it doesn't limit only to tool and process. It goes beyond that. It goes to the people, and people can be internal and external stakeholders.
Okay. So about the design thinking, and then after that, we can develop with agile, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Actually, in the beginning, we discussed already about agile, yeah. So what? So in the market, they call agile Scrum. Actually, what is different between agile and Scrum itself, from your perspective, KD?
Agile is the big umbrella.
Big umbrella,
and that is like the name of the framework that has the manifesto, and that has there is an agile manifesto, right? So I mean, agile manifesto completely states opposite of what
the
what
people
Waterfall
interaction, working software,
over
and then
documentation,
customer collaboration, responding to change, the agile manifesto,
So the
2000.
manifesto was the main thing which came out first, and based on that, agile came into the market space. And then the 16 people, I think, who created the this manifesto, they came out with 12 basic agile principles. And those agile principles were later on broken into
12
multiple domains. So each of if you look at it, I mean, if you look at the 16 founders of Agile Manifesto, few of them came together and came to be known as the father of Scrum, right? So
Ken and Jeff,
yes. So they were also part of that Agile group. So Agile is the bigger umbrella, and Scrum is one of the methods of Agile.
I mean the best practice.
Best practice. There is Kanban, there is XP,
DSDM,
there is SAFe, there is LESS, Large Enterprise Scale Scrum. So all these are different methodologies which are coming out under the umbrella of Agile. So
so it means agile or agility, it is the opposite of Waterfall. For the agile itself, at least 3 things that we learn. First, ability to respond changing demand. The second one, ability to adapt. The third one, ability to innovate. But sometimes in the market, I mean, when we ask our customer, hey, what is your competitive advantage? They always mention, oh, we need to be agile. But sometimes when we ask, okay, what is agile? Tangkas, lincah in bahasa
it's like fast.
Fast and others. But when we dig more, sometimes they hard to explain.
Correct.
So that's why when we learn, we divide by 2: being agile and doing agile. When they would like to doing agile, when they would like to implement agile, then they should learn best practices. One of the best practices common in the market, they call Scrum, right? So what is Scrum itself?
Scrum is a framework for Agile.
Yes, correct, exactly. But if you learn,
it's a very lightweight method.
Correct,
so it's a very easy to adopt method.
Correct.
So any company which is just looking at implementing Agile on a very short scale, specifically for the development environment, they can directly focus into Scrum.
Yeah.
Scrum is very easy to adopt because it talks about 5 or 6 events like daily stand-up meeting and sprint
planning, sprint retro, sprint review.
Oh my God, you
Hey, I want to ask you I want to ask you a difficult question because you are the expert here, right? So the Scrum definition, they have 2 definition from the Scrum, solving complex problem, and the second one, to create product with the highest possible value. I don't know, are you aware or not about the definition come by Ken and Jeff? So what's the meaning, the create a product with the highest possible value?
So here we, as you asked, Agus, so here when we're talking about highest possible value, so in Scrum we have a concept of product backlog, right?
Yes.
So in the product backlog, we try to capture what the customer wants.
Correct.
And we try to write user stories based on the requirements, right?
Yeah.
Now, after we write those user stories, we try to assign story points for them.
Yeah.
And the highest story point means the highest value item for the customer.
Okay.
So in Agile or in Scrum, we try to focus on providing the highest value items in the first iteration, second iteration, and then we proceed to the lower value items. So, and also we do a Moscow prioritization.
Yes.
So that
Moscow. I mean Russia?
Russia, yes.
What is Moscow?
Moscow?
I think you need to explain to audience. Moscow,
Moscow is must have,
should have,
could have,
won't have at this time.
And this
Yes.
time, right?
Okay.
Oh.
Moscow.
So the must have and the should have generally are called as grouped together as MVP or minimum viable product for a Scrum concept. And these items are those items which are of the highest value to the customer. So if we deliver the MVP in as per Scrum or Agile, we are supposed to deliver a complete project. It is supposed to be a complete project delivered, unlike Waterfall, where we focus on all the requirements, whether it's a must-have, should have, could have, or won't have this time. We try to work on all the features. So that is not the concept here. We try to deliver what is the most valuable item to the customer at the fastest rate. So that is why we do product backlog, sprints, and prioritization using story
product
points.
backlog refinement, product
Grooming,
backlog grooming. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, it is a big difference between waterfall and adaptive when we talk about the value. So when we act as a project manager, actually the scope given by project owner, project sponsor. So that's why we as a project managers, so we must manage the triple constraint: scope, time and cost. That's
and
why
quality.
Yes, quadruple constraint. So when we act as project manager, our focus how project can finish on time.
Correct.
How we can manage the project with the budget given by the project owner, and then the deliverable must same with the scope given by them.
Correct.
Well, we're focusing on tasks. How about the value? Different things, So that's why we focus on scope, time, cost, and the quality. Project manager. But in the Agile, we act as a product owner, which is our deliverable. We must have we create the deliverable with the highest possible value. It means at the end, it could be different with the beginning when we start the project.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
How? With the product backlog grooming and the product backlog refinement, because when we do the sprint review, and then we can hear the feedback from the customer, and then adapt the new items, and then go back to the product backlog items. And the other things is when we set the highest possible value, because we have the product owner, which is they know the market very well. They know the market very well. That's why it is very different with the waterfall. Usually, user interact in the beginning, at the end. At the beginning, when they inform the requirement, at the end when the user acceptance testing. So that's why when we learn about the Scrum definition, the one of the important is we must create the product with the highest possible value. Yeah. I think that's the big difference lah between Waterfall and Agile.
Okay. We talk. Okay. Yeah, this is very insightful from you too. Okay. So actually, since the first we talk about the benefit and all the advantage from Agile and that what we talk about. So I just wonder, is there any disadvantage if we using Agile? You know, sometimes something must have that advantage and disadvantage. So do you think, is there any disadvantage to use Agile?
Katie can explain, So when I teach about the Agile Scrum to all my customer, all the participant, and then they said, wow, it is wonderful, And then when they learn about the Scrum value, the team must focus and commit. For the Indonesian organization, sometimes for the development they can manage many projects, But for the Agile, they must focus and commit, So I think this is challenging, hard for the Indonesian organization. So what is the idea from company? Use the Waterfall, they can manage multiple projects, and then suddenly shift to Agile. They need to focus, commit to one product.
Actually, right now we have a framework in the market which is becoming very popular, more than SAFe actually. SAFe stands for Scaled Agile Framework for Enterprise. Because Scrum is very popular, so another framework which is becoming very popular because a lot of people have already adopted Scrum is Large Enterprise Scale Scrum.
So Large Enterprise Scale Scrum.
It's called LESS in short.
LESS,
So in that, this problem is identified, and they have created groups or tribes and squads, and use that squad and tribe concept to manage multiple projects at the same time. So I mean to describe it, it's going to be quite a long discussion, but that squad and tribe is a cross-functional unit which can work across multiple domains and multiple units of work at the same time. And because of that, it can manage multiple projects.
Actually, in my experience, when I'm dealing with many organizations, actually, what I can advise them, because they have a legacy mindset, how they would like to shift things. Let's say for next year, they have 100 projects, and then I advise them, maybe they can spread from 100, they can spread with 5 strategic initiatives. And then they can do Agile. It is because it is hard to change all teams from Waterfall to become the Agile. That's why my advice to them, next year, how many projects that you have? Let's say 100 projects, and then they can spread to 95 and 5 projects, and then they can do 5 projects with the Agile.
And another concept also which we are doing in the industry based on LESS is concepts like chief product owner, tribe lead, squad lead,
Spotify,
So that one is basically based on LESS. So if let's say in a year we need to do 20 projects, so we can manage them as 4 or 5 programs.
Correct.
For each program, we create a chief product owner, tribe lead. Tribe lead can be based on cross-functional domains, or can be based on products.
Wow.
And then based on that, to support the tribe leads, we create squads. So these squads are loosely coupled squads, and they work on different domains as units of development rather than projects. So they complete one unit of development, then they go to another unit of development, and that goes like that.
So what the name of the program?
LESS.
LESS.
Yes.
Okay.
Large Enterprise
So
Scrum.
for all audience who already learn about the Scrum, don't forget LESS. Learn di mana?
Large Enterprise Scale Scrum.
Belajarnya di mana, Tasya?
Di mana? Boleh. Tidak perlu langsung hubungi di bawah ini ya.
Ini udah pada gini-gini semua udah pada.
Oke, ya.
Bisa di conclusion kan, maybe Tasya?
Iya, oke, mungkin I will talk in bahasa ya for
Yeah.
the audience.
Cheers.
Oke, jadi teman-teman lifelong learner semua, thank you yang udah stay tune dari tadi. Ini kita sudah ngobrol banyak banget nih
Iya,
ya,
ya.
Pak Agus ya. Dari kita
Waduh.
sudah bahas tentang digital transformation
Iya.
tadi, lalu design thinking, dan juga tentang agile-nya. Jadi tadi kita sudah membahas kalau misalkan digital transformasi itu beda sama digitalisasi ya,
Mm-mm.
Pak Agus ya.
Yeah.
Dimana kalau untuk digital transformasi ini pastinya kita harus ada si orang-orang yang mindsetnya juga harus diubah ke arah digital transformation, yang tadi caranya dengan salah satunya design thinking ya. Seperti itu tadi sudah bahas juga dari awal hingga akhir. Semoga sangat membantu lah ya, pastinya membantu ya untuk teman-teman lifelong learner semua. Jadi seperti biasa ini sudah durasi ya teman-teman lifelong learner, sayang sekali. So if we actually we still have a lot to talk about ya, but
Talk about
yeah.
this time.
Part 2.
Maybe we should have part 2 for this. Okay, so sekali lagi terima kasih banyak
Thank you,
Pak Agus.
Tasya.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
Mr. Kaustuv for
Yeah.
for our discussion. It's a very good discussion for this 40 minutes.
Here
ya.
we call banyak daging ya.
Iya, banyak dagingnya. Kalau di Inggrisnya gimana tuh Pak Agus?
Aduh, maybe we can ask
A lot
others.
of meat. There are a lot of meat in our discussion.
Yeah.
Oke, mungkin begitu aja untuk teman-teman lifelong learners yang udah bertanya juga, thank you banget. Nanti akan dibantu jawab oleh expert-expert kita. Mungkin kalau begitu aku tutup ya Pak Agus. So I will close this discussion, Mr.
thank you.
Kaustuv. Oke, jadi teman-teman lifelong learners semuanya, untuk teman-teman yang suka nih dengan diskusi-diskusi seperti ini ya, if you guys love this kind of topic, you can follow us on our social media.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of social media, Mr. Kaustuv. So di Instagram teman-teman bisa follow di @multimatics, lalu ada di YouTube Multimatics ID, Facebook Multimatics_ID, LinkedIn Multimatics ID, dan jangan lupa follow Instagram Dr. Agus di mana Pak Agus? Boleh apa Instagramnya?
Instagramnya mana ya? Lupa saya juga ya.
Di
sini ya.
Oke.
Ya.
Maybe you can share your Instagram also.
Oh, I don't have
Oh, yeah.
profiles.
You don't have social
Yeah.
media?
He's a known guy lah. He doesn't need Instagram lah.
Oh
No,
yeah.
I like to be low profile.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
so-
Actually without any social media everyone can know you
Yeah.
already. Oke, jadi dan kita juga ada
I
TikTok
have
teman-teman.
influential friends like Pak Agus.
No.
Oh, influencer
He's
friend
my
ya.
sifu lah. My sifu.
My
Yeah.
sifu. Iya, jadi selain itu kita juga ada di TikTok teman-teman di @multimatics. Jadi jangan lupa di follow. Nih ada di bawah ini semuanya. Jadi teman-teman kalau misalkan suka dengan DTTalk kita, jangan lupa di like, comment, subscribe, dan juga di share ke teman-teman terdekatnya, karena kita ada di setiap hari Rabu ya,
Yes.
Pak Agus.
Tuh.
Jadi setiap hari Rabu jam 12 siang kita akan ada ngobrol-ngobrol seputar digital transformasi seperti hari ini. Jadi teman-teman semua, terima kasih banyak sudah stay tune dari tadi. Mungkin akan aku tutup. Makasih banyak Pak
Ya,
Agus,
Tasya.
Mr. Kaustuv.
Terima
Makasih
kasih.
banyak. So teman-teman semua, sampai jumpa di DTTalk berikutnya. Kita akan selalu turn knowledge into performance. Dadah.
Ya.
Thank you.
Yeay.
Bye-bye.